You've been alone for 3 days, and your stomach starts to ache. It isn't hunger. It's a 50,000-year-old survival alarm. Welcome to Logic Schema. You're sitting on your couch, the silence of the apartment feeling less like peace and more like a physical weight pressing against your eardrums. There is a gnawing, hollow sensation in your gut that makes you want to double over, and a cold, sharp ache in the center of your chest that refuses to dissipate, no matter how many blankets you wrap around yourself. You've eaten recently, so you know your blood sugar is fine, yet your body is screaming at you as if you are in the middle of a famine. Your heart rate is slightly elevated, your hands are cold, and you feel a strange, restless energy vibrating under your skin. This isn't just a bad mood or a bout of the blues. Your body is not being dramatic. It is running an ancient, deep-coded security sequence that cannot tell the difference between a quiet weekend alone and a death sentence on the savannah. You are experiencing the Loneliness Schema, a biological failsafe that views isolation as a catastrophic systems failure. In the eyes of your internal hardware, being alone doesn't just feel like dying. It is the first step toward it. To understand why a lack of social contact can make you feel physically ill, we have to look at the biological blueprint of human survival. For nearly the entire history of our species, humans did not have what we would call a private life. There were no solitary apartments, no soundproof walls, and no moments of true sustained isolation. To be human was to be part of a collective brain, a biological machine where every individual was a specialized component. Your survival wasn't a personal responsibility, it was a communal one. One person was the sentinel who watched the darkness while the tribe slept. Another was the expert who knew how to hunt giant animals. Another was the only reason the group could survive in prehistory, by knowing which roots could cure an infection. Because the stakes were so incredibly high, your brain did not develop loneliness as a complex poetic emotion. It developed it as a primal, visceral alarm system. Your brain hijacked the same neural pathways it uses for physical pain and hunger, because those were the only signals loud enough to ensure you wouldn't ignore them. In the ancient world, being alone was the ultimate system failure. If you were separated from the group, you couldn't stay warm during brutal winters. You couldn't keep kids alive against predators. And you certainly couldn't defend yourself against the things that hunt in the night. Loneliness is the security schema for the tribe. It is the social hunger that forces you to return to the safety of the collective before your biological clock runs out. This leads to a phenomenon we can call the neural tether. When you feel that ache in your chest after being alone, you are feeling a literal activation of your brain's pain matrix. Specifically, your brain is firing the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that lights up when you break a bone or burn your hand. But why would the brain use a pain signal for a social situation? Because pain is the most effective search and rescue protocol in nature. If you step on a thorn, the pain forces you to stop and address the wound. If you are alone on the savannah, the social pain of loneliness forces you to stop whatever you are doing and find your people. Think of an ancestor who got separated from the group during a high-stakes hunt. As the sun begins to set, the silence of the wilderness becomes a physical assault. Their brain triggers a massive resource audit and realizes they are now biologically bankrupt. Without the collective brain to watch their back, they are essentially a walking calorie packet for a predator. The brain doesn't send a polite suggestion to find the camp. It slams the emergency brake and floods their system with a social aura so intense it feels like a physical wound. This is the logic of protection in action. The pain is a tether, a biological leash designed to pull you back to the fire before the predators of the night realize you're alone. When you feel that hollow ache in your modern living room, you are feeling the tug of that same ancient leash trying to pull you back to a tribe that isn't there. Then there's the reality of thermal debt. Have you ever noticed that when you're lonely, you tend to take longer, hotter showers, or you find yourself craving comfort food that is physically warm? This isn't just a quirk, it's a hardware response to a thermal crisis. In prehistory, one of the primary ways we survived brutal winters was through social thermoregulation, literally huddling together to share body heat. Being alone didn't just mean you were vulnerable. It meant you were physically colder. Your brain understands this relationship perfectly. When you are isolated, your brain triggers an energy preservation audit. It assumes that because you are alone, you no longer have access to the shared warmth of the tribe. In response, it begins to constrict your peripheral blood vessels to keep your core temperature stable. This process, known as peripheral vasoconstriction, is why loneliness makes your hands and feet feel icy. It is a biological overcorrection that treats a quiet evening as a survival emergency in a sub-zero cave. You take that hot shower because your brain is desperately trying to pay off a thermal debt it thinks you owe to the environment. You aren't just sad. You are biologically convinced that you are freezing to death because there is no one else in the room to help you hold on to your heat. One of the most exhausting parts of being alone is the way it ruins your sleep. You might find that even if you're exhausted, you wake up at every tiny creak of the floorboards or the distant sound of a car door. This is because your brain has disabled your deep sleep protocol and replaced it with a high vigilance audit. In the ancient world, no human ever slept truly alone and survived for long. Sleeping was a communal act of trust where the tribe took turns acting as sentinels. When you are alone, your brain realizes there is no one else to watch the door. It performs a security schema check and decides that it is no longer safe to enter a state of deep sleep. Instead, it keeps you in a state of micro-arousals, hovering in the lighter stages of sleep so you can react instantly to a threat. This is why loneliness feels like a physical exhaustion that sleep can't fix. You are trying to rest while your internal sentinel is standing at full attention, screaming "system check" every time the wind blows. Your brain is running a 50,000-year-old night watch in a world of deadbolts and alarm systems, and the result is a massive hardware mismatch that leaves your nervous system frayed and your body depleted. This mismatch is where we find the most dangerous glitch of the modern world: the illusion of digital connection. We've created a society of private lives where we attempt to satisfy our social hunger through screens. But here is the problem. The low road of your brain, the part that controls your survival instincts, does not understand what a like or a comment is. It is a sensory-driven engine that requires the high-definition data of physical presence to feel safe. It needs the scent of another human, the subtle vibration of a voice in the same room, and the signals of touch to verify that the tribe is actually there. When you scroll through social media, you are feeding your brain empty social calories. It's the biological equivalent of looking at a picture of a sandwich when you are starving. You get a tiny, fleeting hit of dopamine, but your internal accountant quickly realizes that no actual resource has been delivered. The gnawing ache in your gut doesn't stop, because your brain hasn't received the physical receipt of presence. In fact, seeing others together on a screen often makes the loneliness schema worse, because it signals to your brain that the rest of the tribe is together, and you are the one who has been vanished from the collective. Your brain reacts to a digital snub with the same intensity as an ancient exile, triggering a code-red panic that no amount of scrolling can soothe. The cure for the loneliness schema isn't more connection. It's more presence. Your brain is a recognition engine that was forged in a world of constant physical proximity. It needs to see the whites of someone's eyes, hear the rhythm of their breathing, and feel the thermal safety of being in the same space. This is why a 10-minute conversation in person can do more to silence the social hunger than 10 hours of texting. You are providing your brain with the hardware verification it needs to shut down the alarm. You are telling your internal systems that the resource audit is complete and the tribe is secure. We have to realize that our modern world of isolation is a massive, ongoing security mismatch. We are the first generation of humans trying to live without the collective brain that kept us alive for millions of years. We have traded the logic of protection for the luxury of privacy, and our ancient hardware is struggling to calculate the cost. Your loneliness isn't a flaw in your character. It's a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering. It is the voice of every ancestor who stayed close to the fire, who huddled together in the dark, and who understood that the only thing more dangerous than a predator was a moment spent alone. Your jumpiness at night, your cold hands, and that hollow ache in your chest are all signs that your internal sentinel is working perfectly. It is a tribute to the logic of the tribe that you cannot be truly healthy in isolation. You were built to be part of a whole, and your body is the only thing brave enough to tell you when a piece of that whole is missing. It is a reminder that in the eyes of your survival hardware, there is no such thing as a private life. There is only the group or the grave. The next time you feel that gnawing social hunger, don't try to distract yourself with a screen. Instead, listen to your internal blueprint. Realize that your brain is flagging a catastrophic resource deficiency, and it is demanding a physical solution. Go where the people are. Sit in a crowded park, meet a friend for a meal, or simply be in the same room as someone you trust. You are giving your brain the biological receipt it needs to stand down. You are telling the sentinel that the night watch is over and it's finally safe to rest. Subscribe to Logic Schema as we decode the human blueprint, one glitch at a time. The ache in your chest isn't a sign that you are alone. It's a sign that your brain still remembers exactly what it's like to belong to something bigger than yourself.